Why do I keep replaying that conversation? I remember asking myself that very question one day while I was driving. I suddenly realized I didn't even know where I was or where I was supposed to be going. I hadn't been paying attention to the road at all. I was replaying the conversation I had just left, not because I wanted to, but because I was trying to understand it, trying to make sense of what had been said, trying to figure out what I'd missed, trying to understand why it stayed with me long after it was over. If you've ever caught yourself doing the same thing, you know how quickly it can happen. Your body keeps moving through the day, but your mind keeps returning to the same few minutes, hoping this time something will finally make sense. Most of the time, we don't replay conversations because we're trying to relive them. We replay them because we're still looking for something. Maybe we're looking for words we wish we'd said. Maybe we're trying to understand why someone reacted the way they did. Maybe we're searching for the moment something seemed to shift. Where did it go wrong? Or maybe we're hoping we'll discover we didn't do anything wrong after all. The conversation may be over, but something inside of us isn't. It may not be about the words. One of the things I've noticed is that often the conversation isn't what we're really replaying. It's the feeling we left with. Something didn't sit right. Maybe you felt dismissed. Maybe you felt misunderstood. Maybe you left wondering if you said too much or not enough. Sometimes there isn't one obvious moment you can point to, just a lingering feeling that says something about that wasn't finished. If you've also found yourself wondering why something feels off, but you can't quite explain it, you may find this helpful. Another blog titled, "Why Do I Feel This Way?" Our minds like things that make sense. It's hard to leave something unfinished. When something feels unresolved, our minds often return to it. Not because they're trying to make us miserable, but because they're still looking for clarity. That doesn't mean every conversation has an answer waiting to be found. Sometimes the clarity comes from understanding ourselves. Sometimes it comes from recognizing that another person's response wasn't ours to control. And sometimes we simply don't get all the information we wish we had. That can be uncomfortable. But it doesn't mean you've done something wrong. When replaying becomes self-judgment, then there are times when the conversation shifts without us even noticing. We stop asking what happened and we start asking what's wrong with me. That's a very different question. Instead of trying to understand what happened between two people, we begin criticizing ourselves. I should have known what to say. Why did I say that? I can't believe I handled it that way. If that sounds familiar, you may also find yourself relating to Why Am I So Hard on Myself? Or my blog about self-judgment, where I explore what happens when we turn difficult moments inward instead of simply allowing ourselves to be human. You may never find the perfect answer. This was one of the harder lessons for me. Not every conversation ends with complete understanding. Not every misunderstanding gets cleared up. Not every relationship gives us the chance to ask one more question. For a long time, I thought if I replayed it enough, I'd eventually find the missing piece. Sometimes I did. Many times I didn't. What changed wasn't that I found every answer. It was that I stopped believing I needed every answer before I could move forward. What I ask myself now. I found it helps to become curious before becoming critical. Instead of asking, why can't I let this go? I try asking, what am I still trying to understand? That question feels different. It isn't trying to force the conversation to disappear. It's trying to understand why it stayed. Sometimes the answer comes quickly. Sometimes it arrives days later. Sometimes it shows up while I'm talking with someone I trust. And sometimes the answer isn't about the conversation at all. It's about something the conversation touched that was already there. If this is where you are right now, replaying the same conversation and wishing you would finally let it go, you don't have to sort through it alone. Sometimes simply saying it out loud allows you to hear something you couldn't hear while carrying it by yourself. A place to talk it through. At Hold, we offer a calm, confidential space where you can untangle conversations that continue to stay with you without interruption, judgment, or advice. Sometimes clarity comes not because you give the answer, but because Sometimes clarity comes not because someone gives you the answer, but because someone gives you the space to hear your own. And if you're not ready for that, you're welcome to explore other blogs. There's no need to rush your way through this. Sending you kindness and wishing you only good things.